I think it's like so important in these times to just continuously drop music because there's so much music out there
Mhm.
and people are always like looking for the newest and the next thing and to be engaged. I don't think it's like the same as it was where you could just put out like one project every 2 years. Hello.
Hi, Brandy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you doing this.
Of course.
Awesome, awesome. I'm Adam, and this is the podcast about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new EP, Silhouette Volume 2.
Okay, awesome.
Very cool. I did read originally from Chino Hills in California.
Yes, originally from Chino Hills, currently live in LA.
Okay. I'm from San Diego, so I know the
Oh, nice.
area. Yeah, my sister went to Pomona, Cal Poly Pomona. And that's kind of
Mhm.
you have to drive around through Chino Hills, I want to say, to get there. Or it's
Yeah, depending on where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Pomona's a little bit north of it, correct? Or
I think
northeast?
yeah. Yeah, northeast, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah, tell me about Chino Hills. I don't know much about it other than kind of where it's located out there, Riverside County-ish.
I mean, Chino Hills is cool. It's suburbs, so it's not like a lot going on. I mean, honestly, the only thing there was to do was like go to the movies or go to the mall.
Okay.
Typical suburb life, like nothing really going on. Skating ring, but that's about it.
Okay. Was it hot out? I mean, it had to be hot as hell out there, right? I mean, in the middle of I remember
Yeah,
San Bernardino being pretty brutal as far as
it was
weather.
hot. I don't know if it was like crazy hot. It was hot, but I'm like now weather is a little different, so it might be really hot now.
Oh, right. Sure. Exactly. It's changed a bit. Oh, awesome. Okay. So movies, skating rink, stuff like that, just basic suburbs
Yeah.
activities. But what about music? When did you get into music, or do you come from a musical household at all?
Um, I've always loved music. I've always known I wanted to sing. Like, I went to a Christian school when I was younger, and we had like a little group there. Everybody was, of course, a participant, but it was like the Sunshine Generation at like 2 years old. And I was like, yeah, this is it.
Oh, wow. You even remember too. You can recall us knowing you
Yeah,
wanted to do this.
it was
Wow.
like preschool, like 2, 3, 5. Like, I'm like, this is it. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Wow. So you obviously continued. Did you do choir, chorus, all that stuff through school?
I did do choir a lot in school, like elementary, high school, and then like private lessons here and there.
Oh, okay. So you took vocal lessons as well.
Yeah.
When it came to like perform, like how did you, I mean, aside from doing chorus and recitals and stuff, were you just constantly singing? Like, how did you kind of continue that path?
Yeah, so I was always like I've always sang, I always knew I wanted to sing. It wasn't until after college that I booked my first like studio session for like my
Okay.
own music. I honestly didn't know like the way music was presented to me growing up was more so of like you had to know somebody or you had to already be famous to get into
Right.
certain rooms. I didn't know you could just kind of like call up and book a studio session. So it wasn't until like right after I graduated that I was talking to someone, I met someone and I was like, "So you could just kind of like call and like book time?" And they're like, "Yeah." So that's kind of like where it's first started for me.
Okay. Did you go to college for music at all or something completely different?
No, I actually didn't. I went to school for, well, my major is in economics and
Oh,
minor
wow.
in marketing. So I always felt like you didn't necessarily have to have a degree in music to do music. So
Right. I mean, those are better options, especially with marketing too. I mean, marketing yourself
yeah,
and then economics, the funds, and there you go. The
exactly.
backbone of what would continue you singing aside from the talent part. That's cool. So you were you writing songs or is this new to you or was that new to you outside of college?
I didn't start writing songs until like I think I probably started 2014, 2015, writing my own songs. Um, and then just kind of like built from there.
Okay. And what drew you to writing music? Was there something that happened or a moment that where somebody come to you and say, "Hey, you should probably write your own songs," or
So I graduated and I had a job. My first job was in New Jersey.
Oh,
And then
wow.
like after a
So you
year of
moved to the East Coast?
yeah, so I went to school
Wow.
in Georgia.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
And
say if you went to
yeah,
school around around California, and then you that must have been a huge culture shock. But I mean,
well,
even going to Georgia must have
still.
been a huge culture shock.
Yeah, but in college, like you go back home for summer and like winter. So like it still was a huge like snow and all that was a lot.
Right,
So
right.
I was there for like a year and then I was like, this is just not for me. I'm gonna move to California and I'm gonna find someone to write my songs and I'm gonna be a singer and that's what I thought. And then like I moved back and I was like, okay, so I have to write my own songs. That's kind of like how that started.
Okay. So did you get that studio time after you had written some songs, or was that before?
Before, so like the first thing I did was a cover, and then the second thing I did was like it's still up on my SoundCloud today. That was the first thing I put out. It was like a Party Next Door and Drake mashup type of
Oh,
thing.
cool. Uh-huh.
So I didn't necessarily like write the words, but I put it together. So that was like my
Yeah,
first
your
time
own
in the
style, sure.
yeah,
Okay. And then you realize, okay, I should write my own songs at this point if I want to continue doing this.
exactly.
And then what was that like? Was that hard at first or
It's like it's weird because it's like sometimes you look back and you feel like it was easier because you didn't have like the limitations, you didn't know the rules, you didn't know anything, you were just kind of like freely creating.
Mhm.
So I love that aspect about being like a new writer. Um, but then like you start learning things like where a chorus should go, where a pre-chorus should go, so it starts being like just not more challenging, but just like less free.
Right, it's like it's kind of like when I've heard people talk about that are really into, theory, or they're like very you know, I can't think of the word right now, but basically they're very disciplined in like knowing like which notes go with which notes, and like and then you talk to somebody that doesn't know how to read music or never learned that, and they're like, well, oh, this sounds cool, when somebody else's
Yeah,
brain would have been like, no way, that would never work together. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't even think to try that. But when
yeah, you're
you
just making what you like.
right, you're just going off what you are feeling at the time. But once you've got some songs under your belt, you might be like, oh, like, I shouldn't really go with this. I should put a pre-chorus here. Or this is where a bridge would go, or yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So when you started, or what was it like when you have your songs together, or a few songs together? Do you remember showing those with people? Like, did you get any validation early on that you were doing something really well and that you should continue?
Um, so my very first project, I wrote some of them by myself, but also some of it with other people. So I think like I wasn't really thinking about was it good because it was still like my creative expression. So in my
Mhm.
mind, like it was always going to be what it was. And me getting help from other people just kind of like I assumed they knew what they were doing. So
Mhm.
and I still to this day I think it was a great project. It was like my first project. It was called Roses.
Roses. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you put that out in 2018, I believe,
Yeah,
ish. Okay.
2018.
So you
Yeah.
put that record out, and then with when you released it, was it something that you like went to shop out to different record labels? Or what were you thinking after it came out? Like, what was the plan?
So funny enough, it was right around the time when SoundCloud had introduced playlists
Oh,
and
cool.
they only had 4 playlists and like those 4 playlists were on like every single person's phone. So if you downloaded the SoundCloud app, like every single person had it on their homepage.
Hmm.
And one of it was called Artists to Watch 2018. So I honestly just I sent in like a message through the SoundCloud Artists to Watch page and I was just like, hey, I just released a project. My name is Brandy. I'm an artist to watch. Like, and
I'm an
crazy
artist.
enough,
Watch me.
yeah. So, and crazy enough, they actually like responded and they were like, hey, we love this song and we want to feature you on the playlist. We want to feature you on our Facebook and on our Instagram. So it was just kind of like,
Wow, that's massive.
yeah,
Just off of a
yeah,
cold email, like, hey.
off of a cold message, just random, like, hey, check me out. I'm an artist to watch.
And did you send them your whole project, or was there a particular song that you sent them, or that they
um,
wanted to use?
yeah, I sent them a song. The song had been doing well. I had been pushing the song because the song itself was my single. It came out in 2017.
Hmm.
So I had been pushing it for a while, a couple months. And it was doing pretty well on its own. So I sent them a song called Conditional
Hmm.
and they checked it out and they loved it. It was definitely like it was definitely the beginning of a new time. I don't know if you were heavy on SoundCloud, but there was like an era where everybody was like on SoundCloud making like new genres and like bedroom pop and like everything was
Yeah, a lot of artists were coming out of SoundCloud for sure. I mean, I
exactly.
didn't. I'm not a songwriter, but I come from radio and loving music, and I remember obviously those. That's where people were discovering music, and that was kind of its own community. I would think it's still kind of doing that, but then was really a big deal. It was kind of like even before that was like Hype Machine and blogs. If you got on a blog, it was like, oh, game changer. But to have
Exactly.
success there, yeah, and a lot of people are collaborating with each other. There was
Yeah,
such a cool, like almost like a social network of songwriters within the one website.
I know. It was amazing, amazing times.
So that's where it started there on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it started on SoundCloud.
Okay. And then from that record, did you just continue working on your craft, or because you put out a project in 2020, right?
Yes.
And then
So
another one
from there,
last year, and then obviously the newest one. But so from 2018 to 2020, tell me what was going on between those two records.
so between that time, I kind of learned I focused heavily on songwriting. I learned how to record myself. I learned how to mix myself. So now I pretty much do everything by myself or with the help of like some people here and there, like my roommate and stuff. We
Oh,
mix
cool.
together. But yeah, I just took the time to learn the craft more and develop myself more.
Okay. And then when the pandemic hits, I mean, when does the record come out in relation to that? Or the
I had a
second EP, I mean.
yeah, I had a project. It came out, I think, like the beginning of I had I know I had a project come out like 2021 that really took off for me, but I definitely think all the things I did during the pandemic and being able to be at home
Hmm.
and practice those skills of songwriting, recording, and mixing definitely helped me. So those projects, my project like Garden Fire,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, that's the one I was curious about. So that one came out in 2020.
yeah, I think just being able to be at home definitely like set the tone and helped a lot of songwriters, not just me,
Hmm.
but to be able to like, create and be in our bubble and not have to be like on the go all the time.
Sure, sure. And then you put out, and because of that, you were able to like kind of hone on your craft. And then you put was it two records last year? Two EPs?
Yeah, 2 EPs
Yeah, because
last
you
year.
did Silhouette, and then you also had another one as well, right?
Yeah.
That's Unfortunate was also a project you had to come out last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like so important in these times to just continuously drop music because there's so much music out there
Hmm.
and people are always like looking for the newest and the next thing and to be engaged. I don't think it's like the same as it was where you could just put out like one project every 2 years. And of course,
Right.
maybe you're major, but as a smaller act, I think you have to keep putting music out there.
There's so much going on, right? I mean, it's so oversaturated with people constantly releasing songs that it's like, unless you're a, massive star, if you're Drake, you can wait a couple of years. Or,
Right.
but everyone else has to be like, okay, I got to put out a record, and then I'm going to put out this next record, and just keep people interested. Um,
Exactly.
you said you had, like, was Silhouette the one that kind of took off for you in 2021?
Yeah, Silhouette was my most successful one.
So tell me about that and how did that all kind of come together?
It came together. I was able to put it together probably like winter of the year before of 2020.
Hmm.
Um and then Clubhouse, I don't know if you were a part of the Clubhouse phenomenon. There's an app called
Mm-mm.
Clubhouse.
Okay.
And it got popular in October of like 2020, I think. And everyone was just kind of like on it. It's an app where you can like you talk to people through your phone, kind of like instead of like you're in a room. It's like a chat room almost,
Okay.
and you're just like talking to people. And I ended up meeting someone there from Apple,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and I got to play my song in a session in a room, and everyone loved it. And so it got on an Apple playlist, and that
That's
really helped.
huge.
And I also was able to get it talked about in Teen Vogue and Up Rocks through my PR.
Oh,
And then
wow.
Spotify found it from there, so it just kind of had like a trickle effect.
That's amazing. Whoa. So this app still happening? Like I've never even heard of it. I could feel like such an
Yeah,
old person.
it's still happening. I don't think it's as popular. I think it was just because I think at the time, it was COVID, everyone was at home, it was like
Right.
winter break.
Okay.
But but it's still out there.
Okay. So you just went on there and you were just jumping in different chat rooms, or were there like specific, like you could go to
Music
like
chat
music or song? Oh, was it
room, kind
all?
of,
But there's
yeah.
everything in this app. So you'd go to
Yeah,
music chat rooms and you're chatting with people, and then somebody just happened to work for Apple.
yeah, so you can follow people, and then you could see what rooms the people you followed were in. So I would
Oh,
follow like music people, and then I would go in the rooms that they were in, and they had a lot of rooms where you could like play your song and get feedback. So
that's awesome. I've never heard anyone talk about this app. That's so cool. So
I know.
Silhouette, and then you put another project out, and then obviously now is Silhouette 2. Why the space in between, or was Silhouette 2 kind of being worked on as Silhouette 1 was coming, like ending, or like it just two totally, like you just decided to go back and be like, you know what, this is kind of a batch of songs that follow what I had going on in the first one. So tell me that, because you had a record in between. That's why I'm curious.
Yeah, so I felt like I put out Silhouette 1 purposely in February because it was around like Valentine's Day, and these were a bunch of love songs.
Hmm.
And so I think I just wanted to kind of come back again and put out Silhouette 2 again around like Valentine's Day for my fans that really do love like my love songs and are into, although I do write about love, like those are just very more like sensual songs for like
Hmm.
Valentine's Day. So that's why I did like a part two. So now I'm just excited to put out more music as well that it may sound totally different from that.
Oh, okay. I understand. So the record in between isn't the same style as far as stylistically what you're doing with Silhouette. So that was like, oh, okay, well, this isn't gonna. It doesn't make sense to just have another record that just continue with the theme of the Valentine's Day and everything else there.
Exactly.
Okay, when did you start writing Silhouette 2 then? And did you kind of have that idea? Did you know that you wanted to do that, or it just happened to be like, oh, these songs are also like in the same vein as the first record?
No, I definitely knew I wanted to put out a Silhouette too.
Hmm.
But I probably didn't start working on it until like the same type of time frame, like winter the year before.
Hmm.
So like November, December of the year before I started working on Silhouette too.
Okay. And like currently, like, so you knew you're going to go into just writing that style of songs. And then is it hard to kind of juggle? Are you writing obviously different, like, when you go into write, you focused, okay, I'm just going to write this record this certain way and then do this style, but I have all these other song ideas that are going to be part of something different. Like, is that when you write, was that where your mind was at? Like,
Kind of. I think like I'll make songs just to make songs, and then like sometimes they fit in one category, sometimes they don't, and I just like will save them until I get a group of songs like that. So maybe I'll
Okay.
have like one song done in the summertime or something, and then like another song done 2 months later, and then I'm like, okay, I think I want to make two more songs like this, like, and then like I'll
Hmm.
I'll have a collection. So it's not necessarily always all made the exact same time, but for the most part, like I'll get a couple songs and I'll be like, this is the direction I'm gonna go in.
Okay, very cool. And are you writing constantly? I mean, do you have a bunch of songs ready to go, especially in this, like we were saying earlier, just constantly having to release content?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I write all the time. I think that like I love so many different genres. So sometimes I'm kind of like, I think I want to just wait so that I can have like a specific order and a rhyme or reason. So it doesn't
Hmm.
seem like completely random, completely random, like, oh, she was doing this, now she's doing that. Like, and just bringing it together maybe in an EP. So a story, it can like tell a story.
Hmm. So are you currently doing that, or just kind of building songs and maybe they'll like intertwine at some point?
Yeah, so I am doing that, and I plan on releasing more singles this summer. Hopefully as well another EP, because I want to just get out more and more music and more visuals and really give my audience something to hang on to.
I love it. I love it. And what about playing live? Are you doing any shows in LA or outside of LA?
I actually did one show, um, like last week, and I'm sure I'll be doing some more. I think I definitely want to focus right now on getting a couple of singles out and some visuals and really like creating a world. I loved my project That's Unfortunate because I got to kind of like create a little world for people to come into, and that's what I want to continue to do is just like build my own world so people can feel like a part of my world.
I love that. That's so awesome. Very, very cool. Well, Brandy, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for this interview.
Of course. I have one more quick question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yes. My advice would just be to continue, be consistent, and try to outdo yourself every time or have a different game plan every time.
Bringing it backward.